carry on.
Thank you. I'm afraid I don't have any chocolates or fun videos, but hopefully this will be interesting. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah. So I've entitled this the NSM Ouroboros or Ouroboros, so about the continuous life cycle of network security monitoring. So a bit about myself, Kimberly Hendry. I work as the SOC team lead at that security.company on the Pocket Seam managed services side. So we produce low-cost seams using Security Onion for small, medium-sized enterprises. And I'm the co-lead of the North East Ladies Hacking Society and a member of Cyber North up in Newcastle. So my plan is to do a basic explain of what network security monitoring is, and then show you some examples, so the whole show don't tell thing as well. And hopefully we'll have some time for some questions. And I thought I'd do some disclaimers of this is my opinion, this is not my work's opinion, and also this is not my methodology. This is I think quite a standard methodology of network security monitoring. And also I'll be referring to a seam quite a lot because that's the one we use, Security Onion, as a monitoring and visualization as well. Okay. So just so everyone's on the same page, very basic, when I'm discussing networks, I'm talking about computer networks, so interconnected devices, sharing resources and communication, and then the security monitoring side. So we're looking to detect and prevent any breaches, unauthorized access, and cyber threats as well. And a good way to do that, obviously, is in a seam, if you can do that. And then the data that would be good to be captured if you're looking to secure your network and monitor it. We're looking at including firewall logs. So I've got a little a diagram here of a typical, just a very basic one of Security Onion. So there's the security and seam in the middle, and the logs that are coming in from servers, firewalls. So here we've got firewall logs, so you can track your network traffic and any access attempts. Good to ingest your server logs as well, so system activities and errors, and any audit logs as well for users, so any user actions and access privileges as well. And so bringing it all together, this is a way to identify any incidents that are occurring and analyse vulnerabilities in your environment and try and ensure the network's integrity and confidentiality. And I guess if you're preventing things like a denial of service, that keeps your availability going as well. So looking at the kind of stuff you'd collect into the seam, obviously network stuff on about your net flow. So going back to that previous diagram of your ingress and egress, what's going out onto the internet, or internal traffic as well. So your east-west, server-to-server traffic, it's good to capture that if you can. And tools that we use with Security Onion. So there's the intrusion detection system, we use Suricata, and that's going back to the previous diagram, you use that on a tap or span port as a sensor in your network. And that's a signature-based IDS. Also in Security Onion, the Zeek, that used to be called Bro, and that's a network metadata analyzer. So that tracks and analyzes different ports and protocols and what's coming in through your network. Good visibility as well through getting full packet capture from Sonographer. So Sonographer captures the PCAPs, and obviously if you're triaging, you can analyze it using things like Wireshark and Network Miner to dig deeper. And also file analysis can be done by Suricata and Zeek, and that looks for file content and structure, and looks for any anomalies there as well. So I'm going to do a little diagram as a basic overview and then do some examples. So the first step in the 5-step life cycle would be do some threat modelling. So that would be sort of trying to assess what you're vulnerable to, what threats are there in your own environment. So via pen pen tests and vulnerability scans as well. So starting off with what do you have, what assets do you have, and what are you vulnerable to? And then next, look at what data collection needs to go into your SIEM. So going back to the previous slides about the different logs, see what kind of logs you should be ingesting, and make sure you've got good visibility of those different parts of your environment. And then from there, you could either, if you're using Security Onion and Suricata, that feeds from emerging threats, threat intel feed, and you can just download quite generic rule sets there, and it uses signature-based rules, or also you can create your own rules as well in something like playbook detection as well in Security Onion. And then, so like say you've done your threat modeling, you know what logs you're ingesting, what rules you've got set up, and then once it's all plugged in and set away, this will then trigger any alerts if any known IOCs have been seen, and then you can start doing your detection in your network. And then from there, analyse what the alerts that you're seeing, conduct investigation, hopefully mitigate any threats as well, and then feed that information back into your threat model to then check you're getting the right logs, update your rules, check the signatures are right, and again, carry on the life cycle. And then happy days, hopefully. I was going to make a joke about then you're 100% secure, but obviously, it's just a continuous cycle of updating stuff as well. So I thought I'd use a couple of examples to show you this. So a phishing example. So your threat modeling for phishing. You look at if you've been susceptible to previous phishing campaigns. So think about like a real world example. So say you've said a certain department has had an influx of phishing emails, and maybe they've like failed a phishing awareness campaign and been clicking on stuff they shouldn't, and you've not seen it. So that's a part of your threat modeling to find out what's happened already. So then you can make sure you're getting the right logs. So obviously your network data, your traffic data, you want that ingested. Also your email logs and endpoint logs as well, so you can see if anything has been clicked on and downloaded. Also SAS logs as well, you can bring those in. And then so you create rules, like I say, emerging threats with Security Onion and Suricata that has quite lots of generic rules that do pick up things, but you can create your own ones if you're susceptible to any particular attack. And so kind of rules for email phishing would be any checking on suspicious email headers, connections to known phishing domains as well, which are constantly updated, and any known keywords that you often get in phishing emails. And so then if, say, you're getting those logs through your network sensors as well, if those get triggered, you get an alert come through, which will give you information about the email and any possible attachments and any metadata as well. So that's your detection part as well. So then your analysts would then look into this and decide, doing some investigation, see if it's a false positive or a real threat, analyse, assess the severity, check the content as well, see if anything needs to be blocked or to mitigate the threat, and then also possibly move that onto more training and awareness for certain departments. And again, like I say, you'd feed that back into your threat model to then update your playbooks if needs be, or it will expose maybe what you're not getting the correct logs that you thought you were, or some endpoints aren't sending their data across. So then, like I say, you're just constantly updating. And so I thought I'd use the Log4Shell vulnerability as well as an example of this. So again, going back to that life cycle, start with your threat modeling. So In the case of this Log4Shell vulnerability, identify what are your critical assets and who are actually running Log4j and versions as well. So that would be from your vulnerability scanning. See which kind of machines are susceptible to remote code execution attacks or data exfiltration. So do that in your threat modeling, test it. Denial of service attacks as well. And so the next step would be to check you're getting the right logs from those. So can you see network traffic for those critical assets? Are you receiving the system logs? Are they being ingested into your SIEM? And the application logs as well. So you're looking out for known indicators of compromise in the rules. But like I say, emerging threats is quite fast at updating their threat intel feed. And I do remember from the Log4Shell vulnerability, I think it was a Friday, we started seeing this, and I don't think we were seeing the alerts in the SIEM. We were hearing about it just on the threat intel feeds. And I think by about, if not Saturday night, definitely Sunday morning, the alerts were coming through into the SIEM from emerging threats with those indicators of compromise. So that J and DI string, and also known domains that were being used in those attacks. So if you don't have access to some sort of threat intel feed like that, you can update the rules yourself and create bespoke ones. So your rule sets, make sure they're up to date and relevant for this. And so then, like I say, you then move on to, once your rules are in place and triggering, okay, there's your alerts, and so you can detect what's going on, and hopefully they'll trigger in real time to give you time to investigate this. And then this moves on to the analysis part and investigation. So again, analyze this, check if it's a false positive or a false negative or any of those ones. Check it, it'll show you if the critical asset actually is running the version that's vulnerable or not. See if it's a real threat, then obviously then you can investigate and mitigate the threat. So either blocking the system, blocking malicious traffic, isolating the affected system, or updating those servers. And then, like I say, then you feed it back in and carry on again. So in conclusion, like I say, this is not my methodology. This is just a quite well-taught methodology in investigation and triaging and building SIEMs. And like I say, it's an iterative approach. You're constantly feeding into the next phase. And and it all doesn't have to be done by certain teams or big projects. It can just be done actually naturally as you're triaging. We often, obviously, if you find a false positive alert, we'd make a note of that, then use that to tune out or update our playbooks, update our threat modeling as well. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh yes, if anyone has any questions, yeah. Hi.
When you said that's not your methodology, you just put down that you didn't find that, or you don't use that?
So your question saying that when I said it wasn't my methodology, was I saying I don't use it or I didn't write it?
Yeah, you use a different methodology.
Oh no, I just meant I didn't invent it. I wasn't trying to claim that this is my idea. I've looked online. I've done a few security union courses, and they teach it in their analyst and triaging courses. And then when I looked online, there was some SANS courses seem to follow this procedure as well. Hi.
With the security union installation, is that your homegrown? You just run it on tin of various sizes, or do you actually use any of the? I believe there's some manufacturers now actually box security union into a supported platform of products.
Yes, they do. I think you can buy actually servers with it installed from Security Onion. No, where I work, we're an MSSP, and so we build Security Onion in customers' environments. Actually, mainly in the cloud. There's only a couple of customers now that have on-premises like data centers. Most of them, it's all cloud environments, and so you can just pop it up in the cloud there with virtual sensors.
Have you got any experience using Security Onion in a Kubernetes and Docker environment?
Oh, no, I actually haven't, but we've got a new engineer brought in for that because I think that's been brought up apparently by lots of people. So I've done a bit of the engineering and building sensors, but I mainly work on the front end in the analysis and triaging side. Hi.
I noticed stenographer was on there. It gives you full packet capture, I think you said.
It is, yeah.
How useful does that turn out to be from analysing the signatures? Is it something you tend to a lot?
Oh, it's really helpful because obviously you see the alert and you see the socket and you see the inward and outbound connections and why it's been triggered. And often in the Suricata alerts, you'll see a payload and why it's been triggered. But then if you can actually view the full packet capture and view the full transcript and see the full conversation, you can quite quickly see if it's a false positive or if it's HTTP and like a 404 response, actually not to be concerned. So it's really, really helpful to have that visibility. Hi.
How can you tell the TLS encryption? What's your strategy?
That's a good question. Encryption. So yeah, I think it was on a talk I watched with Doug Burks, who is the inventor of Security Onion, and he was saying how encryption is great for network security, but a bit of a pain for network security monitoring, because obviously then we can't see it as well. But that's why things like having Seek for network metadata analysis is really helpful. So it means even though you can't see necessarily the payload, you can see the connections and any lateral movement as well, like I say with the PCAPs as well. So that's why the network data is so valuable, because you can't actually see what's possibly been downloaded or is in the payload, but you can see what's connections like correlate from there. So that's a way of getting around it.
You don't recommend or advise TLS encryption for your customers?
We don't use it. We've never needed to be honest. We usually get enough information just out of the Suricata alerts, like I say, looking through the PCAP, any endpoint data as well. That's usually enough to make a decision to sort of isolate a machine or wipe it. Like I say, because then you can see lateral movement from other indicators and other logs. It'd be interesting to look into that. Oh, hi.
Are there any sort of confidentiality and sort of privacy issues about collecting the stations or capturing and analysing files? Stations obviously stored somewhere, but it might also contain PII, for example, rather than information.
Yeah, no, that's a good question about PII. And well, the way we work, everything's held in the customer environment, and we just sort of SSH into it. We all sign like NDAs, and so I don't know if you mean it as in an external person investigating for someone. I don't know if you mean that, but I guess
do the clients know that their data is actually somewhere else, not just the places they think it is? It's another possibility where data is moving out of its environments.
Are you meaning in a compromise or as in part of an investigation, someone else?
Just in general.
In general.
And log perhaps sticking around persistently somewhere that's outside of the client's knowledge, as it were.
Yeah.
Are they aware that it's actually in another system?
If you're meaning in the seam, then it's not, because it's still definitely in the customer environment. But if you're meaning with this alert on something like data exfiltration, then this definitely would. There's actual alerts that would show that. yeah, but definitely the way we work for the triaging side, everything's held in the customer environment, and we just can view that. We can't actually download their files or anything like that. But yeah, I don't think anyone's brought it up with me about seeing that. Yeah, it is. Yeah, brilliant.
How long do you normally keep PCAP data for?
Well, it depends on your resources.
Is that per client, or is there any standards that you would sort of recommend on that?
I think we usually try and keep it for 30 days. We recommend 30 days, or most customers want it maybe for their own compliance 30 days. Most logs and PCAPs for 30 days retention, but it depends what size disk you've got and resources for what you can afford to keep, really. But I think most services we do either 9 till 5 or 24/7 triaging, and you wouldn't really want to be going far back past 30 days. I think for any investigation, if you've missed something from 30 days previous, that's a bit of a problem already. So usually 30 days is more than enough. Each customer has their own one. I'm trying to think. A recent one wanted 60 days. That's just part of their compliance and their contracts, what they say for their customers themselves. They keep security data for 60 days. So, hi.
How much you spend in the threat model research? Do you sandbox that, or is there a password transfer? I guess
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I guess it's continuous, but I know when we onboard a new customer, we do probably about a couple of days at least with the different analysts doing some threat modelling with them, and use like MITRE ATT&CK framework to write them threat intel reports, and then constantly refer back to them and update them as necessary. So we don't have any like defined time, things like that. Hi. So if people didn't hear the question about what's a security incident and what's operational, yes, my boss tells me off lots for trying to flag informational alerts to customers and just say that's not a security incident. We're not there to tell them that. But sometimes it's just helpful to know, I guess, because lots of customers don't get to see their own environment. So I think anything that's helpful for them, I'll pop that at the end of a report. So with my boss is constantly saying to me, just focus on, especially if it's a quieter customer that it's quite locked down and actually doesn't have many alerts, then we can use it to show them, I think, things like what servers are running versions of TLS. And so I think that class is a security thing, but we get lots of informational alerts as well in the SIEM that aren't necessarily security related, but might be of interest to, say, the engineers. There's a bit of a balance there. Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you for your time.